Hey guys, it's Dragon Ball for Life here. Today I'm gonna be doing something different. I'm gonna be reacting to a specific YouTube channel that discovers, talks about, versus, debating about who would win in a fight. Not usually specifically who would win a fight, but power scaling in general. And this channel is called Surfbone. And this guy, he made his channel like about a year ago, and I've watched a couple of his videos. This one specifically, I watched it. Now, I do think he's a very intelligent guy, and I think a lot of the videos that he puts out does bring out some good information, and he has some very in-depth videos. But there's a lot of stuff that he says that I just disagree with, and I feel like he doesn't understand what he's talking about when he makes these statements. So I made this video to call out this one, because this one specifically, it's a topic I talked about. He's talking about different types of speed. I made my own video not too long ago about travel speed versus combat speed, and why they're not the same thing, and why combat speed is only applicable to actual fighting, whereas travel speed is just for it's just calculation for how fast they are, and they don't really correlate as much. And in his video, he's talking about reaction speed, travel speed, and combat speed, and how speed works, and as a whole. So I watched this. I remember when I watched it when it first came out. I felt like he put some good work into it, but I still felt like there's a lot of stuff that he said that was incorrect, especially towards the end. The end portion of it, I 100% disagreed with. So with that being said, let's get into the video. Oh, wait, before that, I want to state my last Hunter x Hunter video. The episode was kind of looking bad. It was because the software I was screen recording on, it was bad, so I got a new screen recording software. I don't know if it will I don't know if it will work really good and stuff. So this is just to see. So let's get into the video. I'm gonna skip some parts since a lot of these points.
Even deeper into the bring it up in this bit, move or operate. This definition works because it applies to both the physical movements of a character and as well as the processing of information within a character's mind, which kindly leads into the three main categories of speed, these being travel speed, combat speed, and reaction speed.
I only did travel speed and combat speed because I was trying to talk about the difference between those two, and the reaction speed usually goes hand in hand with combat speed, so I didn't really need to, felt like I needed to go in depth on that one.
Besides the fact that these categories of speed are pretty self-explanatory, starting off with travel speed, which mainly refers to a character or object's raw movement when traveling, either by running or by other means that doesn't involve flight or teleportation. Why is this? To further elaborate, teleportation is the ability to move instantaneously from one location to another without occupying the physical space in between. So by definition, it's not only an ability that doesn't apply to your sheer movement speed, but it's explicitly an ability that's sole purpose is to make traveling via sheer movement unnecessary. And as for flight, it's most often cited as its own separate category of speed, due to also being described as an ability a character can have. But unlike teleportation, it does involve occupying a physical space when traveling to and from certain locations. So although technically flight speed and travel speed aren't the same solely based on their different means of traveling between locations, however, it is possible for them to be either equal, relative, or not equal.
I agree with the teleportation thing. I don't think that counts. I've seen a lot of people saying, well, this character can teleport, and it's just like, well, that's not their speed in general. Obviously, it would be important in a fight, especially if they can use it in a battle scenario, but like when we're talking about speed in general, we're not talking about techniques that cut out the middleman of distance. We're talking about just how fast they can move. But I disagree with the flight speed and travel speed. Travel speed, he's making it sound like running, and running considers as travel speed, but flight doesn't. Travel speed just means going from point A to point B in a certain amount of time. It's basically measuring distance divided by length. Distance divided by time, which it would be the same for both of them. It's just you have different categories for speed when it comes to running and flying. Because some characters, they can move faster when they're running than when they're flying. In Dragon Ball, they consume more energy when they're flying because they move faster, whereas when they're running, they move slower, so it consumes less energy. But they can still move pretty fast, it's not as fast as flying. And same thing for like Superman, he can move faster when he's flying than when he's running. There was like a comic book issue where he was talking about the Flash, and Flash stated he's faster than him, he's beat him in the races, and he stated that that's because he was running on foot. When he flies faster, so that is the case, but I'm not saying that he's faster than the Flash, but that is the case that characters move faster when they fly than when it's running, but I think it's the same thing, it's synonymous. To separate them is pointless, to be honest.
Now, hold on, I meant speed and reaction speed, without being literal. Combat speed specifically refers to the speed that your limbs, such as your arms and legs, move during combat. And reaction speed specifically refers to the speed at which you're able to both mentally process and receive information as you perceive something.
Now, the reaction speed, I have no problem with that definition. I do have a problem with the combat speed definition. He makes it sound like combat speed only is determined by your hands and your feet, like how fast you can punch or kick, but that's not how it works. There's also footwork in there that involves, a defensive side where it's blocking, counterattacks, and evasion of like dodging, and that's either close range or long range dodging in these cases since they have like energy attacks. But yeah, they can close range and long range dodge, and you don't need to use your arms and legs to do that. You usually use your top half, your head, you're bobbing and weaving your head or your body. It's called head movement, or footwork. It's basically moving your body. So you're moving your torso and your head. You're not just moving your individual limbs itself. So I think that's an incorrect definition of combat speed.
Now, in order to properly understand the difference between these two categories of reference points, reaction time plus movement time equals response time.
True.
Reaction time being the time of stimulus, thing or event that into the end of said movement.
It's basically saying if your mind reacts to it first and then your body moves afterwards. This happens a lot in fighting. If you see a punch come after you, your mind can react to it first and then your body has to respond to it, either blocking or dodging, or just sometimes people freeze up and get hit in the face. So it really depends on how good of a fighter you are. If you're a better fighter, you will be more mentally prepared and physically prepared to handle these situations in a proper manner, either blocking or dodging. If you're less trained, you will just take hits in the face and you wouldn't really react to it.
Equals to what is known as response time. Those two being simple response time.
I'm going to skip this because this is pointless. He's just talking about simple is like a single stimulus that your brain reacts to, and it's like usually linear, whereas the choice one is basically you have multiple responses. So that isn't really necessary. I don't find a purpose in this.
Decisions needed. A reaction cupcake.
Let's skip this. This explanation was pointless.
How does it relate to and differentiate from combat speed? Well, usually, we would most often assume first that a character's combat speed and reaction speed would at the very least be relative to each other. Because let's say if you're able to combat someone who's faster than light, then that would entail that your reactions would have to be faster than light. If you weren't able to react at that same speed, you wouldn't be able to combat him. However, it is possible for your reaction speed to be faster than your combat speed.
Normally, reaction speed is generally faster in just real life and in fiction, because in real life you have to perceive it before you can react to it. Same thing with them. So usually your reaction will be above it, but in real life it's just like a couple of microseconds off. So it's like your physical reaction to it is not that much off compared to your mental reaction to it. Though when you come into into other fictional worlds, you do see characters like Sasuke, like he's bringing up. I'm going to skip this part because I'm just going to explain it. He has abilities like the Sharingan where he can see, he can see people's techniques and stuff and the finer details, and he can see at a higher speed. So he can perceive things a lot faster than he can react to. Normally they do that in anyway, but this is to a higher level. You see this also with Jocko the Galactic Patrolman. Jocko is not anywhere near as powerful as the rest of Dragon Ball characters, but the fact that he has the ability to, he has better eyesight than any of them. He can see the smallest detail. He can see stuff moving a lot faster, but he just can't move that fast. So he has a higher reaction speed. The only time you will see somebody with the opposite, where they have a faster faster response time than reaction time, is with Ultra Instinct. That's the only time I've seen it with Master Ultra Instinct with Goku, where his body reacts without that. The whole point of the training was to eliminate the reaction part. So he can just, his body physically does it, so he doesn't need to react just even faster than that. But usually it's the opposite way, or to even more extreme extents when it comes to like someone like Sasuke. So let's skip this part.
The difference between combat reaction and how your reaction can be faster than your combat is by bringing up the concept of aim dodging. Aim dodging refers to the technique of avoiding linear attacks by repositioning oneself away from the path of an attack before it is fired.
This I also agree with. Aim dodging, here's the thing. People use it two ways. Sometimes people try to discredit it to, overhype a character or make hyperbolic statements about what they've done, or they use it to downplay characters' abilities to say they're not as fast as they are. Now, usually we see the hyperbolic statements come from when it's like street level characters, like he's showing right here, Spider-Man and Moon Knight. A lot of people try to be like, well, this street level character can also move faster than bullets and light because they were able to dodge it, but it's like they were aim dodging. They were able to perceive it and then react before it was even fired off. So that's not the same. So that's not the same, and they're not moving that fast. The only times they would be considered, non-aim dodging is one, if they were to able to, they didn't perceive it and were able to dodge it without even noticing it. And two, if they do see it, they dodge it at the last minute. Like it's already fired and it's coming at them, and then they dodge it. Then you can argue that. Also, really depends on the distance. The closer you are, the harder it is to dodge something that's moving fast. The further away it is, the easier it is for you to do it. So also, if it's too far away, they might not be as fast as a lot of people may think. But yeah, that's it for this one. I'm just gonna skip this one.
Coming at some character.
He basically just goes on talking about aim dodging.
Types and speeds, when applied to a certain character, are either relative, equal, or not. That's known as
Yeah, this part is super pointless. Like talking about Octane Razor, like.
At the very least, relative or just equal.
Okay, let's get to it.
For example, if we take post-crisis Superman, we'd at first assume that his flight speed and travel speed would be very similar to each other. But if we look at this scan called the Great Race, it shows a description that states that this is where Superman would be if he was running, but if he was flying, he would be the fastest on the list.
Okay, let me start with this. Like I said, he is I would say he's a legit, credible source when it comes to these power scale and stuff, but he also doesn't know what he's talking about a lot of times, especially in this part. If you are a comic book fan or a DC fan, you've probably seen these like charts and stuff that, the companies give out to say, oh, this character can be this powerful or that powerful, to give out like power scaling statements, but they're usually incorrect. This one does not make any sense. He's saying by this logic that Superman on his running speed is number 4, but when he flies, he's the fastest, which is BS. He's never been faster than any of the Flashes. He has raced them while he's flown, and he's still lost. And also, let's just look at the list itself. There's a lot of problems with it. First of all, they put Barry Allen above Reverse Flash. If you know anything, like in my Reverse Flash vs. Goku Black video, I already explained that Reverse Flash is faster than Barry Allen. I don't think he's faster than Wally West, like a lot of people are saying, but he is faster than Barry Allen. So the fact that it's reversed is incorrect. Also, they put Godspeed in number 8, way behind them all. And if you know anything, Godspeed is the only speedster or only character to be able to move so fast that he can occupy 2 spaces at once. And this is not using an after image technique. It's moving so fast that he's physically in 2 places at once. Even Barry Allen says, this is something I've never been ever able to do, and I've always wanted to do it. I don't think even Wally West has done something like this. Yes, some people say, well, he did in the Amazing Race, but that was time traveling and stuff. I mean, just generally just running so fast. So he should be actually the top at the list. He should be the fastest because he's way faster than them. He should at least be way faster than Barry Allen in Reverse Flash. And they put Wonder Woman above him, which is ridiculous. And then they put Cheetah above that. If you see right here, when you go back,
if we look at this game,
if you see right here, put Cheetah at number 6. That does not make any sense that Cheetah would be at number 6. Cheetah is above Godspeed. You're telling me that? Cheetah shouldn't even be on this list. And Wonder Woman, of anybody, should be at the back of the list 100%. The fact that the placing is just ridiculous. None of this really makes any sense. You shouldn't take it any serious. And if you're like, if you talk to any comic book fans, they'll tell you the same, that this is not to be taken serious. And a lot of times the authors don't even know what they're talking about. They just make statements. So yeah, I disagree with this.
Evidence to prove otherwise being the speed of a particular attack, like an energy blast. For example, if a character has only demonstrated feats of him moving at hypersonic speeds, but he can create beams of natural light, then obviously this indicates that although the speed of the attack is light speed, it would require a great amount of assumptions to say the character automatically scales to it.
Okay, here's the thing. I do agree with this with some point, but we do see characters that have, if they have energy attacks, then they're going to be firing them at each other. They're going to have to block or dodge it, or they're just going to be getting hit by it 24/7. So the fact that they can block or dodge it showcases that they would have to be close enough to that speed, even if they don't show them physically doing it. Because we see this with, Dragon Ball characters. They can fire attacks even in the beginning of Z at Piccolo was able to hit the moon in a couple of seconds, which would be close to light speed, but physically we haven't shown them be moving at light speed. Now, I do think that there is a problem with that. I would consider that more of an inconsistency, but I can see where people would argue that, but still, I would consider it as more of an inconsistency. And also, he states that it's an assumption, but you will see later on why this is kind of hypocritical for him to say it for this, because he defends it, he makes assumptions in another points later on.
Therefore,
but yeah, I agree with some point with this.
The user's attack doesn't scale back to the user. Well, let's get into the common misconception that's still being thrown around in relation to combat travel speed. That unless proven otherwise, their travel speed would never scale to or even be relative to your combat speed. So what's exactly wrong with this? Well, besides the opposite being true, there is a lot wrong with this, so let's get into it. Essentially, saying that you would at first assume that your travel and combat speed don't scale to each other at all is like saying it's impossible to punch while running at the same time, which I'm fairly certain applies to most humans in real life, so it'd be pretty dumb to make this your baseline assumption. What if I'm going at my top speed, you might ask? Well, let's talk about sprinters in real life and hurdles. These people are obviously going at their top speeds, but are still able to jump hurdles. As them sprinting the distance relates to their travel speed, and them being able to move their legs over the hurdles relates to their combat speed. If these two didn't scale to each other, they would simply crash into the hurdles. And if your combat and travel speed didn't scale to each other along with your reaction speed, then you would always be the particular amp or power-up. For example, when Goku first got Super Saiyan God, and when Naruto first got his KCM to stop him, surprised they were at that massive peak, and they don't scale each other. Relates to how some people, including certain content creators, treat immeasurable speed. That supposedly, unless a character has been shown to be able to fight while traveling through time, you can't say the character has immeasurable combat speed, in which I already debunked in my previous argument. So in summary, you would always assume at first that a character's travel, combat, reaction, and flight speed would likely scale each other unless proven otherwise.
Here, and that's the end of this his video. I just want to touch upon the ending part. Like I said, he said you can't assume that if a character's energy attack moves at that speed that they can dodge it. But then he's saying that you can assume that travel speed and combat speed are equivalent in the same thing, and that you can also assume that if a character, has shown immeasurable speed but never shown in a combat, that it can apply to combat. See, this is where the hypocrisy comes. He's saying you can't assume in one category when it's to deter other people's arguments, but when it comes to prove his point or make his argument, he says that yes, you can make assumptions. So here's the thing. You can't say you can make assumptions in one case and then say you can make assumptions in the other case. He's basically saying you can assume that no, you have to show proof. What's wrong with showing proof? People who do that a lot of times tells me that they're either lying or clearly can't prove it. Because you can tell me how many times Superman was able to go this many times the speed of light, but if you can't show me through his combat, which really matters, then I don't really care. You have to show us through the fights. Why is that so hard? Why do you guys make a big deal about it? If you're telling me that there's countless, feats of them being able to move this fast from here to there, then why isn't there countless feats of them in combat doing that? That just doesn't make sense. Also, the immeasurable speed stuff, I think a lot of people like to take it and run with it, but it's like, these things are not very applicable to fight itself. And the stuff that he's saying with this was just incorrect. Assuming that. And also, let's just talk about the travel speed is the same thing as combat, because if you're running, you can throw punches. The track stars, when they run, they jump over hurdles. Here's the problem with that. There's a couple of things wrong with that. For one, he's saying that if you're running, you can you can still throw punches, so it means you will throw punches at the same speed. No, that is not how it works. Remember, your punches and your kicks will move faster. If you were to record how fast your punches and your kicks would move, it would move faster than your entire body. Our bodies, at most, at the highest peak, would be 28 miles per hour. But we can throw punches and kicks well above that. And that is, and that's the peak of running. Usually people at most would be at 15 to 10 miles per hour. So yeah, our punches and our kicks, if you measure the speed of it does not correlate to the amount of speed that our entire body moves, because you're moving an individual limb that's moving, a short distance compared to your entire body. Also, you need to take in consideration short distance speed and long distance speed. You do see boxers doing road work and running and stuff, but that running is for cardio and endurance. It's not for their speed. If that was the case, they would just try to beat their fastest time and do short runs, and that way they'll be the faster striker. That is not how it works. Also, there's a couple of key arguments I'll make against it with examples. One was there was a comic book where Wonder Woman and Superman are arguing who would win in a fight, and Superman states he's faster than Wonder Woman, but she says she has faster muscle memory, and they start talking to Batman who would be faster, and Batman gives a perfect analogy. He says, "Who's faster, Usain Bolt or Bruce Lee?" Okay, now who would be faster in a fight, Usain Bolt or Bruce Lee? And that already proved the point, and even Superman acknowledged, yeah, he's right about that. And that just shows you that just because you're able to move fast doesn't mean you're able to fight fast. It requires different muscles, it requires different techniques, different abilities, different things you have to do that. The problem with him is he doesn't understand martial arts or fighting, and people who do not understand martial arts or fighting would not understand how running and combat, how they work and how they do not correlate. You can use it to amplify your speed to a certain degree, but it's never going to be the determining factor of how you get faster in a fight. By this logic, he's basically stating that these track stars should be the fastest strikers of all of combat sports. That means that Usain Bolt and all these track stars should be throwing punches and kicks faster than boxers, MMA fighters, Muay Thai fighters, and bare knuckle boxers. Any of these professionals that do this stuff for a living, they should be faster strikers than them, because simply they run more and they run faster. That is illogical. Also, jumping through hurdles, jumping and kicking is not the same thing. Kicking is a whipping motion. Jumping is just your body going up and accelerating in the height when you're running. It's not even the same. He's like comparing different things and saying it's exactly the same, and he's not going very in depth. If you see this on the surface level, you'll be like, this makes sense. But if you look more in depth into it, and if you're an actual martial artist or understand how martial arts work, I'm not a professional martial artist, but I understand how martial arts works to a T. I understand how it works. If you ask martial artists, they'll tell you, yeah, you running fast is not going to make you a faster fighter. Just because you can run the 100-meter dash at a crazy amount of speed, or 500-meter dash, doesn't mean you're going to be throwing punches and kicks at a lightweight or a featherweight level of speeds. That is just a ridiculous assumption. Like he said, don't make assumptions, but then he's making it right there to argue that point. Another example I want to give is Future Flash versus regular Flash. Future Flash fought past Flash, and he beat him, and he reveals to him that his biggest weakness is he relies solely on his speed and that he doesn't know how to fight. If he learned how to do his combat, he would improve upon it, and he beat him and showed him that you need to learn how to fight if you're going to be using your speed. And that shows that even the comic books acknowledge that. Even anime and Dragon Ball acknowledge that just because your character moves fast doesn't mean that they can fight fast. Like with Dispo, he moved faster than all of them. Yes, was he able to catch him off guard, but that was because he was moving incredibly fast, and he does have some fighting. But when it comes to somebody like Goku, who is a high-level martial artist, Goku's able to hit him and even do some damage to him simply because he was a better fighter than him and able to read his movements. He was able to see his linear. Now, travel speed and combat speed can correlate, but that really depends on the person. If the person is a good martial artist and knows how to fight, then yes, it will. But if they don't, then it won't. Someone like Superman, he doesn't know how to fight, so his travel speed and combat speed wouldn't be the same. He would have higher travel speed, but lower combat speed. But somebody like Goku, who does train in martial arts, would have combat speed and travel speed on par, close enough, or on par enough to it. So it really depends on the character and what they're able to do in training and how they're able to fight in those scenarios. And it's different. So yeah, this is incorrect. I don't have a problem with him, but I think this was stupid, and the stuff that he said in this end part was pretty dumb, especially the immeasurable speed one. People keep on using, this character did this feat. Like, did he do that in a fight? It doesn't matter then. And you can't just say, well, you have to assume that. No, we're not going to assume shit at all. Like, stop saying that. Stop saying we can't do this and that. That's the thing about a lot of people when they downplay other people. They have set rules for others, and they say, no, you can't do this or that. But when it comes to something that they like or something that they're trying to defend, they don't have any rules and regulations. They say they can do this or that. So, yeah, his summary of different types of speed was... some of it was right, but mostly was incorrect, and I would say his deduction of travel speed and combat speed are completely incorrect. Combat speed and reaction speed are far closer. Combat speed, travel speed is a completely different story altogether. And you can watch my video on combat versus travel speed. I went pretty in depth in that one too. But yeah, this guy, he's knowledgeable, he's smart. I don't think he's dumb. But there's a lot of things he says wrong, and to be honest, I feel like I need to speak about it. So I'll say this. when what's the thing called? I'll be making more videos on this guy and his videos and calling them out. But no hate to him. It's just that I disagree with the arguments he makes because it doesn't really make much sense. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and